What's got into you? I seen him. I swear I seen him.
Seen who?
The one from the posters. The one with the mask.
You got them outsider's eyes now. Seen all sorts of wonderful stuff, haven't you?
Who's it?
Must have been rats.
Let's finish this.
So I think I've just hit a massive milestone, so I wanted to catch you up. I have the aperture somewhat functioning. It's been drop kicking my brain for like 4 weeks at this point. You'll see this tiny little screw that opens and closes the aperture when it gets moved. I have a wire that runs over the ridge of the nose, through the tubes that I just soldered on, and it comes around to the side and terminates on one of these little side pieces. On the opposite side, because of where the screw terminates to is sort of more downwards than it is horizontal, I need to make sure that the wire is pulling straight down first and then comes back up over the ear to then be actuated by whatever control slider thing that I end up making. It works. I'm very happy. So originally what I was using was brass wire. Brass is very soft, and even though it was only barely rubbing in a couple of spots, that rubbing was creating friction and catching on the brass tubing. So what I am using instead is something called tiger eye, which is often used in jewelry. So it's perfect for this sort of thing where I need it to have the lowest level of friction as possible. Now, there is one thing that I wish that I was able to do a little bit better. I have to control it from either side of the head because of how the wire runs. I could possibly run it around the lens so that it is controlled by one side. It's very finicky. But this brings me to the most difficult part. I've been thinking about how to do the headgear since the start of the project, and I still don't understand how I'm going to go about doing it. I want some sort of adjustability, but I don't want to take it too far from the game. I could just throw a strap on it and I might end up having to do that if I can't work out a better way of doing it. Only about a quarter of my head is actually going to be supported within the mask. I haven't weighed it, but it is definitely getting close to a kilo. Alright, my god, that took forever. But I've definitely learned my lesson about buying brass from eBay. It broke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. It broke 6 times. I don't think I was doing anything that was particularly stressful. It was the cheapest available brass on eBay. I'm definitely to blame for that. We got it together, it's now holding shape, and it seems to fit reasonably well on my forehead. We now have it finished. We can move on to getting it installed. After 6 months, it's finally done. This has been a challenge pretty much every step of the way, and honestly, I don't think I would have it any other way. We managed to get the aperture to open and shut, but what about the multi-turret lens? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. You just have to stick your finger in there and you can turn it around. Anyway. But it does work. The other thing that people might be wondering is, how do I go about holding it onto my head? So I ended up doing a head harness thing, very similar to how the payday masks work. You get 4 straps, a bit of kydex in the middle, the little buckles there, and then they just feed onto these little loops. Is it comfortable? Absolutely not. I would not want to wear this for any extended period of time. I can only imagine getting sucker punched with this is going to feel like getting hit with brass knuckles. That being said though, the attacker might also come away quite bad, given how sharp the front end of this is. I'm going to leave this as a desk piece. I don't know whether or not I can truly be any happier with the way that this came out. With my skill level and with how I felt about going into this project, I didn't think that I was going to be able to achieve this. I honestly thought I would get maybe 4 or 5 days in and just be like, no, this is not working. This has been a massive undertaking and it feels like a massive achievement. But with all of that being said, Doom the Dark Ages just came out, so you're not going to hear from me. But I do have another big project coming out. I've got a bunch of other smaller projects that are also nipping at my ankles. Stick around, I have some pretty cool stuff coming up soonish. Stay safe, happy crafting, and as always, cheers. To be or not to be, that is thy question. I don't know anything about Shakespeare.